So this is my 1984 Austin Mini. Um, it's an original UK import. I bought it with no drivetrain because I am very poor and I can't afford these with a drivetrain. Um, Originally, I got super obsessed with minis when I was like 8 or 9. I watched the Mark Wahlberg Italian Job movie, and there's a couple scenes in the beginning of the movie that whatever in it, or Charlize Theron is like ripping around a pretty late model Mini, and I was just obsessed from there. Um, and so since then, I've always wanted one. You see them in like old vintage rallies and hill climbs, and they're just rad. I've always loved the like super small, like 10 to 13 inch wheels, the go-kart style, how like nimble they've always looked, and just how rad they look ripping around. So I've always wanted one since then. So it took me about 20 years to finally save up enough or find a good enough deal. And so I wasn't necessarily looking for one, but it popped up. This one did on Facebook Marketplace. And so it was a good deal and it seemed clean enough. And so I took a long trip from here we are in Twin Falls all the way down to Sacramento. One weekend I left right after work and then drove down and immediately turned back around and drove all the way back. And so I was able to find this, and I was able to afford it because it didn't have an engine or transmission in it. And the other guy had multiple of them, so he wasn't really interested in, finding the best deal. He was just making space because he had taken the drivetrain out of this one for another one he had. And so it was the right price. And so I was able to pick it up. From there, I had the plan that it would just sit for a couple of years because trying to collect parts, the dream was always to B or D series Honda swap it. But the parts and stuff it takes to do that, I knew was going to take a while. So I was mentally planning on just having this sit for a couple years while I collected parts, and just, be able to look at it in the shop was good enough for me for a while. And then very surprisingly, not even looking for parts, this crazy deal popped up on a Facebook group I'm a part of. This I don't want to say very old, but this 70-year-old man in Nebraska had everything he had for a D-Series Honda swap from his Mini. He had taken it out and was going back to full original. And so he had literally everything, and he didn't very much care how much he was getting rid of it. So he had a crazy deal on it. So, yeah, I went out. I messaged him originally and was like, hey, he had a bunch of parts that I didn't necessarily need, like a set of wheels and some racing seats and stuff. And so I originally had messaged him and said, would you take money off? And he's like, name your price and you can have everything. And so we came to a deal. I got in a truck, drove the 15 hours from here over to where he lived, met him, just a 70-year-old Croatian man who's owned Minis since the 70s. And I told him about my story about the Italian Job. And so he had said when he was around the same age, he saw the 60s version of the Italian Job. And so since then, he was obsessed with Minis. And so he got a Mini in 1975 and has been racing them ever since. So he was like wheel-to-wheel racing his Mini with a Honda swap, and they changed the regulation on him, so he had to go back to full original. So he decided to go back full original plus turbo, and so he had everything that he had taken out of his car to go back. And so he said, basically, he's like, I don't really care how much I'm selling it for. I know it's a really good deal, but he's like, I just want it to go to a good home and go to a real enthusiast. And so when we were chatting and I told him about the car without a drivetrain, he was super stoked. So I went out, met him, and brought home a truck full of parts. Everything I would need to do what I wanted to the car. Only, I think, a month or two after buying the car, which was a complete surprise to me. So this will be the series of trying to you know, more or less make my dreams come true and have a Honda swapped Mini to rip around